We There we go. We are excited to have our keynote speaker, our man with the masterclass tonight, a guy who's been investing for years. He's the author of several books, including Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich? Dumb Enough to Invest. A guy that I've known for over a decade now, a good friend of mine who's just got a passion. Not only is he an amazing father, an investor, but also as a man of faith. He says that comes first for him and everything like that. But somebody who's been on the radio for years in the past and is just doing amazing things now. And so we're honored to have Mr. Bill Barnett joining us tonight. What's going on, Bill? How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, brother. How about you?
Good. You can. You want?
I'm there, man. I'm there.
There we go. So you want to start your video?
You bet. You bet. You bet.
There he is. So good stuff there, man. All right. And you want to wait for questions till the very end of the presentation. Is that right, Bill?
Whatever, I'm so used to dealing with live crowds. And so anytime anybody's got something, they run it through you. If you want to interrupt me, just go right ahead, because we'll have some fun with it. That's the way I've always done it. So I don't have any issues with that whatsoever.
Yeah, so I'll monitor the questions and we'll go from there. But what we'll do, guys, you definitely want to grab a pen and paper, take some notes. Bill always has good stuff on here. And I love some of the examples. We were looking through this earlier there for you. And I think you're really going to help a lot of folks tonight out there, whether they're watching us live here or catch the replay. You definitely want to watch the very end, hang around as best you can, and we'll go from there. So, Mr. Bill Barnett, take it away, buddy. I'm going to drop my video off, but I'll be here and lurking. All righty.
You got it. I'll be listening out for you. Hey, welcome, everybody. Thanks for being on with us tonight. And Scotty, thanks for having me again. As always, brother, great seeing you. And hey, what a great crowd tonight. You guys are the pros that are here. I'm jacked about this. It's going to be a lot of fun tonight. So I'm the real estate radical. That's what I've been known for a little while now, because if you're going to do this thing, you're going to do it right. You got to get radical about it. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I'm going to talk fast because I got about 4 hours worth of stuff I want to get through. And Scotty said I could not go 1 minute past 11:59. So I'm going to try to make sure that I hold with that. So welcome to Radical Real Estate. And the best way to get to know me is through the people that I work with. I want to introduce you to David and Lorraine Ronquilla from right here in Arlington, Texas. And we're going to go through some numbers on a program we have. We're going to talk about later on called Deal a Day. And this is their Deal a Day experience. First of all, this is David and Lorraine, great folks from over in Arlington, fairly new to investing. They've done a couple of deals. That was about it by the time that we met, and just great folks. So let's look at what we did when we did the Deal a Day with David and Lorraine. We found a property for $86,400 and bought it. And then we turned around and sold it for $119,900 with seller financing on it. Now, the great part of what they did with that, and we had no repairs on the property. Did it need repairs? Oh, yeah. But what we said, I sat down and I said, look, here's some options for you. One of those options is you can simply take this property, and if we find the right buyer that you're comfortable with, you can wholesale it to them, to an end user. So it's not quite retail. You could have gotten a little more retail, but you're also not spending any money on it. And so they said, hey, let's go that route. And they bought it out of their retirement account. They had instant equity in the property of $33,500. Well, they turned around and got a down payment of right at $12,000. So that took their out of pocket, because again, they paid 100% out of their retirement account for it. That took their out of pocket down to $74,410. And they were looking at getting cash flow. So they got $985 a month in cash flow. And so they're a little over $15,000 a year coming in there for their, hey, Scotty, can you kill the videos on my side? It's about a third of the screen. So what they were looking for is getting cash flow out of it. They got cash flow coming in $985 a month. And their payment's $985, and they're in about $15,000 in regular income through the course of the year. They get Depending on how you write the contract, they could also get appreciation with this, which would allow them to get additional equity buildup. And that really is dependent on how you structure that on the front end. And if you structure it that way, then you can also get depreciation with that. So they got instant equity, 21,510. So remember, they had like 33 plus. They got their down payment, so it reduced the equity in the property. So they got 12,000 in cash. They still have 21,510 that was remaining in it, and that yearly positive cash flow of 11,820. So in the first year alone, this property adds up to 45 grand when you calculate in the equity that they have, the positive cash flow that they got, and the down payment money. That's a heck of a deal on an $80,000 investment. So that's the things that you want to be looking at. That's the things that we do. And we do some things that are pretty aggressive in the real estate world. And as we get to those later on, we'll get through those. This also, depending on what your personal tax situation is, I'm not a CPA, so I'm not going to advise you with that. But I am going to tell you that if you talk to a competent real estate CPA and you sit down and go through this, there's some additional positive tax considerations that go along with that make the deal even better. But hey, when you go into a deal that you get about 50% of your cash back in total wealth accumulation in the first 12 months, you got to be happy with that. So would that have an impact on you and your family? I'm betting that it would. No, it does on mine every time we do something like that. So real quickly now, Scotty did a nice job introducing me. So who I am, Bill Barnett. I've been an investor for 30 years now. I know I don't look that old, but I started right out of the womb. So it's been a while that we've been doing that. I've got a couple of national best-selling books with Wall Street Journal and Amazon. Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich? First edition and second edition were separately national bestsellers, and another book out of that. And well, if you guys will send Scotty an email later on and tell him that you would like a copy of the book, I'll be more than happy to give you a digital copy of the book, and we'll get that out to you the next day or two. Did 7 years on the radio, nationally syndicated most of the time. So you may have heard of Real Estate Now with Bill Barnett. I was on for, again, about 7 years. LA, San Francisco, of course, here, Houston, Memphis, Orlando, all over the country there, and have been doing not just real estate consulting, but also business consulting. Because if you get in this business and you don't have a business knowledge, some type of business background or just solid footing in the business world, you can learn all about real estate and really mess your business up without having some basic footing. And so we do business coaching along with that. I also own a brokerage firm, dfwproperties.net is a traditional firm. I bought that in 2010. Think about what was going on in 2010. The real estate market was doing this. It stunk. That's when you want to be buying, right? That's when I bought a brokerage firm. And I bought that to facilitate additional value for all of my consulting clients. So a little bit about my personal story. I may be the only person that you ever meet. I'm the only one that I've ever heard of that got divorced twice in the same month. So once was from my wife at the time. She surprised me with nice paperwork. And then very shortly thereafter, within a couple of weeks, I got the same thing from my business partners. See, I come from an investment banking background, and we had set this deal up. There were three of us. We set a deal up. We had a buyout agreement that if anybody got divorced, the other two had a right to buy them out because we didn't want to be partners with somebody's ex. And I'm the guy that came up with that idea. And so I'm the guy that ended up getting divorced, and they bought me out. And as so many things happen in life, you get to a point where something you look up one day and somebody's pulled the rug out from under you. But if you've been around, you find that every cloud has a silver lining in it. And for me, that silver lining, when that happened, which seemed like it was just the world's caving in, but that silver lining was real estate. I'd been doing investment banking for a decade, and I had earlier in my life had some investment property, never really paid much attention to it. Now, when I was in investment banking, we bought some mobile home parks. We did a lot of tax liens. We flew all over the country and I managed a $10 million tax lien portfolio. And so we had some real estate involvement, but it wasn't my personal real estate. It was me managing for other investors. We had about 60 million total, but 10 in tax liens, deeds, and certificates. So you find this silver lining. And so that was the idea I had was, you know what? I really love everything that we do and that I do in real estate. I think I'm just going to step away from investment banking for a while. And I put my license in suspension for 3 years. You can hold it, you can suspend it for 3 years, and it just stays in limbo. And then you got to decide whether you're going to get back in the game or not. At the end of 3 years, I was so in love with real estate, I let my license lapse, and that's been my life for the last 30 years. And good Lord willing, it'll be the next 30 years as well. So the idea was, let's go buy a rehab property. Growing up, my dad did, you may be familiar with the term rolling up. And so my dad would go buy these old houses for us to move into, and they were in terrible shape, but it was the nicest house or the nicest neighborhood he could afford at the time, and bought the worst house condition wise in the neighborhood. And he and my two older brothers and I, over the next couple of years, would rehab it. And then he would sell it, take that money, roll up to a nicer neighborhood, a little bit bigger house, same terrible condition. And we'd go through that process again. And we did that about 5 times from junior high through high school. And my dad kept doing this after all of us were gone, and ended up with a 7,000 square foot paid for home with a 5-acre lake and 7 acres of land over in South Alabama or South Birmingham, and never thought of himself as a real estate investor. But that got in my blood, and I didn't really know it until I decided when I stepped back from investment banking that, man, real estate, I want to spend some serious time and do this thing. And so as the slide there is, man, I hit the go button. Now, my thought is this was the kind of real estate that I was going to be doing when I made that decision, when in reality, on the left here, that's the kind of real estate. And if you know, you've been around this thing, this is where the money is. So I've been doing rehabs and flips for years, still doing them right now. I do a lot of other stuff. This is not my only piece of the real estate world. I still do flips. I love them. I will continue to love them. It's a creative outlet that if you have an artistic flair to you at all, you're going to love doing flips. And it is all about, just like any other segment of real estate, it is about how you can buy it, what you can find it for. And that's where we come in with really figuring out how you can get the most money out of the property. Now, my very first deal, we had this great idea. I brought a partner in with me, a good friend of mine, and he and I, we were going to rehab this property ourselves. And after about 4 months, because the house was huge, so you can understand why 4 months we wouldn't be through with it yet. It was gigantic. It was, about 1,800 feet. And after about 4 months, we woke up one day and went, man, you know what? We ain't ever getting out of this thing. We're going to have to get some contractors in here that know what they're doing. So we brought in some contractors and we interviewed 3 of them. We hired a guy, and the guy we hired said, well, I see the condition it's in, but I don't know who is doing this work, but I'm going to have to undo all this work to be able to do it right. So we got the privilege of making that mistake of doing it ourselves. And we spent all that time and effort and hard work doing it. Then we got to pay for somebody to come in and undo it and pay for them to redo it. Now, the point of that whole story is the deal was a great deal on the front end. And when you get into a great deal, you still walk away with cash. We still walked out of that deal with $30,000 to split between us after all of our fees and everything. And then after all of the horrible mistakes we made, because the one thing that I've learned through the years, my dad started teaching me this when I was knee-high to a grasshopper, and it was, you can sell anything if you buy it right. And for real estate, that is the truest statement as you'll ever hear. So you can write that one down if you want. You can sell anything if you buy it right. And so I had been in what was one of the lowest times in my life, and I made this commitment to real estate, and things just turned around quickly and just took off from there. And Like I said, that's been about 30 years now. There's nothing that I have ever done that has given me, one, more financial freedom. And we had a very successful investment banking firm, not as good as the real estate, though. More financial freedom. And then along with that, the emotional satisfaction. And one of the guys was talking when Scott was talking to you guys, had mentioned that, you know, what we really have to do is provide great housing. And that's absolutely correct. See, I think if you're a patriotic American, and I know you guys are, but as a patriotic American, you owe it to our country. If you have the ability to be a real estate investor, you should be. We need more and more and more real estate investors in this country to make us economically strong and to help all those other families that are not in a position to be able to get a nice, safe, clean home. And that's what we focus on. So it becomes one of the few things in life that I would gladly do for free. As long as I could keep my lifestyle, I'd gladly do it for free. So don't get me wrong. I started out just like everybody else, nothing but dollar signs. But then as you go on and the money starts to come around and play with you to see who you are, then what happens is you find out that the money's the byproduct. What is it that I'm really in this business for? You hear people talk all the time about the why. What is it is your why? What's your why? What is it that really gets you out of bed in the morning, revs your engine? For me, it is putting families in homes and helping people get out of bad situations or no situations and into a home, because that changes people at a guttural level when they have a home. That's the thing that is one of the key components that has made our country so different than many countries around the world, is the ability to own property individually and it to be affordable in most cases, California, New York excluded, but in most cases to be able to afford property. And so it makes you a proud American. It makes you care about our country more, in my opinion, the more that you're involved. So I'll introduce you to a couple of guys here. One is Mark Victor Hansen. Mark's the co-author of all the Chicken Soup books, he and Jack Canfield. I've known Mark since 78, and that picture looks not much older than that, but I've known Mark for a long, long time. As my business started to explode, I called him one day and I was telling him about some deals. I had an incredible quarter, and it still would have been a good quarter today. 30 years ago, it was an absolutely unbelievable quarter. And so he and I were just yakking, and this was even before the Chicken Soup books came out. And we were getting off the call, and he goes, "Hey, I want you to come out to Gardendale here in the next couple of weeks, not Gardendale, Glendale. And I'm going to be doing an event at the Ritz-Carlton. I want you to come out. I want you to tell the people out there the same thing you just told me." I said, "Mark, come on. There's people in California. They're not going to care about my little real estate business here in Fort Worth, Texas. Are you kidding me?" He goes, "No, I think they will come out." I go with guys that are at a different level than I am. You know, you guys all should have mentors. I have multiple mentors. Mark's been a mentor for a long time. When a mentor of mine says, "Hey, this is what you should do," and it's not a suggestion, it's more of a, "Hey, you got to do this now," I go. And so I went out, and one of the things that happened there, we spent about 20 minutes on stage. And when it was over with, Mark was interviewing me that time. When it was over with, I got mobbed. We were right at break for lunch, got mobbed. And Mark saw what was going on. He said, "Hey, you guys just hold on. I'm coming down there." And he said, "Well, what's going on?" And everybody was wanting me to teach them what I had been doing in real estate. And so Mark said, "Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take 16 of you, and Bill's going to mentor you over the next 6 months on how to buy real estate." And I was like, "Huh? You're talking about me?" Because I had never done anything like that. Didn't think about being a speaker. Certainly never thought about being a teacher of any kind. And I fell in love with that as well in real estate. One of the guys that was sitting there is a guy named Kieran Sweeney. Many of you may have met Kieran through the years. If you know T. Harv Ecker, he was president of Harv's company for about a dozen years. And so Kieran was in that group that Mark just kind of randomly picked 16 guys and gals. And I didn't know any of them. Kieran was in there. A few years later, I'm speaking for Harv, and Kieran's working as the president of Harv's company. And Harv is introducing me on an event called Never Work Another Day in Your Life. And Kieran comes running up the center aisle in the middle of the introduction. Hey, Harv, let me introduce Bill. And so he gets up and he says, I was in this group, and he went through the story I just told with you. He said, Bill spent 6 months on the phone with me. That was about 4 years ago. And since that time, I've made $6 million because of that man and what he taught me, ladies and gentlemen, Bill Barnett. And as you can imagine, the response was pretty well. I tried to hire him to go with me and introduce me everywhere, but wasn't quite safe. The bottom line is this: if you can make a ton of money in this business and know that you're on the right track and you're not second guessing yourself going forward, and when you do that, when you understand the systems, and we're all about systems, you can literally turn on the profit, you can turn on the deals, just like you're turning on a faucet, and it flows just like that when you understand it. And one of the key things, we hear people talk about mindset all the time. Oh, you got to have a millionaire mindset. You got to have this mindset. You got to have that mindset. I'm going to say baloney, BS, stick it in your ear, pull it out the other side. Mindset doesn't make any difference unless you set your mind to making this thing work. Once you set your mind to it, your mindset becomes important. If you haven't set your mind to it, it's a waste of time. I work with people that have set their mind to be a successful real estate investor, and we mold them into filling in all the gaps for them. So they go to bed every night with a great night's sleep, knowing that they've got the real estate success blueprint working for them. Wake up in the morning, can't wait to get back to doing it again. Now, 90% of these people still have jobs. I don't have any issues with somebody having a job, especially if you love what you're doing. You start out with this thing, you start out part-time till you can provide enough income that you could replace your full-time job with your real estate income, and you have that in the bank. It's not just well enough that you made 150 or 200 or whatever it happens to be, an equivalent to what your job was. You need to have that in the bank. And then if you come and say, hey, I'm thinking about going full time, if you can show me that you've done that from your real estate business and you've got it in the bank, I'm going to say, all right, let's rock and roll and go with this thing. Because the gurus out there will tell you just enough to get you going, but you never get the full story. You never get the exact blueprint. Guys like Scott and guys like me are very few and far between that just will lay out the entire system for you and say, hey, you know what? This is what it takes, and fill in all the little blanks from you. So here it is. Most of them gurus don't want to create more competition for themselves. And it's not just investor competition. A lot of them are really afraid that you might take their system and go out and decide you want to become a speaker. So think about it. If they were to tell you everything, that's really what they're doing, is they're building their own competition. And a lot of them are very afraid of that. But let's face it, they're going to try to sell you just enough to get you involved and get you to do the next thing, get you to do the next thing, get you to do the next thing. Whenever you're looking at any kind of involvement with somebody, there's always two questions that you have to ask of the presenter. And that is, are they giving me just enough, or are they giving me everything? And when you see what they're offering, it's a pretty good idea. It's pretty easy for you to tell that which one it is. Is it just enough to get me going, but not get me there? Or is it a complete total everything I need to get me successful, not just going, but successful in building a business? And that's what we're all about. So depending on how long it takes a lot of these guys to come out with their new product, they want to make sure they get people just involved enough to hang around till the next product comes out. So the truth is this: you don't want to be held hostage by wholesalers, agents, banks, contractors, anybody. You want to be able to be in control of your real estate investing destiny. You want a system that works for you not just sometimes, but works all the time. And it's a system that's not going to be phased out in the next few months or is just some flash in the pan. So here's another great friend of ours that works with us, Bob Rich, and got a great letter from Bob. And it said, hey, May 31st, we picked up a $23,000 check for an assignment fee. If you understand how to do assignment fees, you can do assignments all day long, but you got to understand the process. And it's not as simple as most people make it sound, because a lot of times the real estate agents will squash an assignment fee. We know how to work with that. So they did an assignment fee. There was a picture of their checks. So put it under contract for $255, sold it for $280 with an investment of less than $1,000. And so they had a $23,000 check. Again, does that impact your family? Now, here's a lot of people probably sitting there going, well, yeah, 23,000 is nice, but hey, that's not going to change my life. It is if it's 23,000 this quarter, next quarter, next quarter, next quarter, and then it starts to be a couple of times a quarter. So what we look at is how do we augment where you are and what you're doing already? So if you've got a job that's paying you $100 a year, and it's shocking how easy it is in the world today to get to $100,000 because so many people just don't want to work. And so if you're one of those people that loves working and contributing, you can get compensated pretty quickly in the regular world. And then you start looking at, can I add another 100, another 125, another 150 a year, year in, year out with my real estate vesting, and do it in such a manner that I haven't given my family life away, that I can still have great time with my wife and kids or grandkids. And if I can do that, then that's a system that I want to look at. And that's a system that I want to be involved with. So think about 23 grand, not as a one-time check, but as something that happens for you repeatedly. And again, we usually start out with folks setting their goal for, and depending on where they are, and you guys are moving along quickly. Y'all have been around a while, so you'd move a lot faster. But brand new rookies, we set them up for doing one a quarter, and it works out incredibly well for them. So what we want to look at are what I consider the best two markets in the country, and that's Texas and Florida. They are markets that have a little bit of a false economy in them because we have a unique situation to our two states. And that unique situation is we are being flooded with people coming in from states that have absolutely horrendous tax laws, New York, New Jersey, California. And so people and businesses are fleeing those states because of the tyranny of taxation out there. And they're coming into Florida, they're coming into Texas because we have just the opposite from a tax standpoint. And so they're coming in, and that's created this massive amount of demand for housing that no matter what's going on in the rest of the country, and look, if you understand the market, you start to look at the underpinnings. One of the things that I've done for years is study the different underpinnings of the market, because the market can't change quickly. The stock market can change in a sniffle, in a whiff, in a blink of an eye. The real estate market can't do that. And so what happens is there are about 6 or 8 signs, underpinnings of the market that are foretellers of what's going on with the market. Well, we've been getting signals for about 18 months now that the market was changing. Is it changing in Texas? Not really. Is it changing in Florida? Not really. Is it going to? Not really, because of that influx of people that we have. But in the rest of the country, you're going to see these things start to come into play and the market really soften. And we're way overdue having a correction. And a correction should never concern you in the real estate world, because it is the natural course of business. A market gets hot, it cools off, it goes down. It gets hot, it cools off, it goes down. It gets hot, it cools off, it goes down. And if you understand what makes up that market, your real estate business is just moving. I think of it like guys that fly or sail, either one. They're never in a straight line. They're always moving back and forth. I have several consulting clients that are pilots, and a couple of them actually train other pilots for the airlines. And I was talking to one of them yesterday, and he said, I looked at our computer system, and he flies the 777s, and he was going from LA to Hawaii. And he said, I was taking a new guy and getting him trained up. And I was going over some of the computer records, and in that one flight, now, of course, that's a few hours in that flight. So in that one flight from LA to Honolulu, there were over 5 million calculations for course corrections that were done by the computers, that was done by the autopilot. And so, you never, ever, ever fly in a straight line. You never sail in a straight line. The real estate business is never a straight line. So you keep adjusting. And if you're paying attention to the market, you can just stay in touch and stay in tune and stay in step with the market so that you're always got great deals, lots of deals. We've never had an issue where we're looking around going, man, where's the next deal coming from? I hear people talk about that all the time. And it just highlights to me is they don't really understand the market, or they'd never be in that position. So how do you find deals that most investors say simply don't exist? So that's one of the key things that we focus on. How to find the deals when the club members, and Scott and I both love real estate clubs. First time I ever met Arnie was in a real estate investment club. I speak at clubs all the time, have been for years, will continue to. But they members of clubs get the yakking, and a lot of times somebody will start bad mouthing, poor mouthing. Well, not any deals out there. We can't find any. They're just not there. And again, it's because they don't understand the market, and we teach them how to be able to go out, how to be able to go out and continue to find deals, even when your club members are going, yep, not there. So funding techniques so that you always have a river of funding opportunity. There's so many different ways. And this is one of the great things that came out of my investment banking experience is there's so many great ways to be able to fund deals. Now, we've got some lenders on here tonight, and that's fabulous. And I heard several people talk about private money. That's my heart right there, man. I love private money. That's what I've been doing for years and years and years. I've structured over $100 million of private money notes, and probably more than that, but that's that I can count pretty quickly through the years. And it's not what I sell. It's a part of the process of learning how to be a complete real estate investor. You've got to know multiple options. You've got to have folks that are on the call tonight. You got to have multiple people that you can pick up the phone and are ready to move forward with you, and you know what they're looking for. So like Jack, you got to know what that guy's looking for, what the parameters are for his boss to write a check for you to do a deal. If you know that, it changes the game for you. And you can't have just one, in my opinion. You got to have multiples, because even in the private money world, people run out of money sometimes, or they get everything committed for a little while. And you don't want to ever get in a position where you're now stuck until something frees up. You want to make sure that you have the ability to move again and again and again. And commercial, there's the gentleman from Canada that's buying multifamily. Those are the kind of things that you look at. There's some great, incredible multifamily packages out there. We do a lot of them that are in the 5 million and under range, and they're terrific, but you got to know how to be acceptable to the lender. So we look at funding techniques. I'll give you a little fun script before we wrap up tonight. And then always how to sell your properties for the highest price and the highest profit potential possible. If I sell a property and I don't get a call from a real estate agent going, Bill, you can't sell that property there for that price, then I feel like I've underpriced it. I love premium pricing properties because we put on the best property in the neighborhood, the best property around that subdivision, without question, bar none. And because of that, we're able to go out and get the same pricing on that. A lot of people say, well, I don't want to do too much. And we never do too much. It's a delicate balance between understanding what's the right amount to do to get the top dollar without just throwing money away on a property. So we're always looking at how do we sell it for the most amount of money, and what do we do to it that's going to allow us to command that price and get it. That's the key thing, and be able to get it. And then how to make sure that you're selling your properties quickly. Now you're going, well, gosh, Bill, right now, all you got to do is have something, you put a sign in the yard and it's gone. That's true today, but it's not going to be true always. And for those of you that have been around the game for a little bit, you know, we enjoy these times like this where the market's just crazy hot, but it changes. And when it changes, a lot of people fall away from the market. What I don't want anybody on this call to do going forward as the market changes is for them to fall away because they didn't know how to adjust their business and didn't know what to adjust their business to make sure that they were able to continue to profit from the real estate world. A couple of months ago, Scott and I did a presentation about the tsunami of seller financing that is going to be available to us going forward. Because as we see, you know, at the end of July, they stopped the foreclosure moratorium. There's a lot of myths around that. Understand this, it's not near as big as a lot of people want to make you think it is. It's about 4% of the market is property that is in forbearance. That's about 2.5 million homes. And all of those homes are not going to get foreclosed on. So a lot of them are going to get caught up. A lot of mortgage companies are already cutting deals with the homeowners where they're taking those back payments and they're tacking them on the end of the note, which becomes out to be, if they can stand it from a cash flow standpoint, doing that turns out to be an incredibly profitable thing for the bank or the mortgage company. So there's not going to be this massive amount of foreclosures dump on the market and crash the market. It's just not reality, but there are going to be opportunities that come up as this market starts to cool, much more so than it is simply because the moratorium on foreclosure and eviction has stopped. So if you know how to adjust, you're going to be in a position where you're always doing more and more deals. And that's good for you. That's good for us. That's good for America. And so one of the things that I'm so passionate about when people start raising private money is that they do it the right way so that they don't ever have any issues with the SEC. And there's a lot of I just call them cowboys out there that are slinging terms around left and right and putting private money deals together. And at some point, they're likely to find themselves in a world of hurt because they're breaking SEC rules a lot of times without ever knowing that they are. And as you know, ignorance is no excuse for breaking the law. So again, structured over 100 million in private money deals and can show you the secrets of, now I call it the private money bank and how to open it, guys. So if you understand that, you just step away from the business and go, I never have to worry about, do I have enough money to do a deal? Do I have enough money to do any deal that I want to do? Whatever size it is, once you learn the strategy behind it, the techniques can adjust as we go through time and as market conditions change, but the strategies stay the same. So if I understand the strategies of what's going on in the money world and I can deal with that, then I can do whatever. If I want to buy a hotel, we can put the deal together for that. If I want to buy, the gentleman talking about, he does subdivisions. If you want to buy a subdivision, you can do that. If you want to buy a 500 unit apartment complex, a grade A, high-end apartment complex, you can do that because you understand the structure, the strategy behind what makes those deals work and what makes putting it together work. Now, one of the, Royce Ann and Cheryl, just two ladies, these are our two nurses that became business partners. And they were like, well, we think we want to do one of those rehab things. And we hear you're the guy for that. And I said, well, thanks. You know, and they came into my consulting program. And so this is the first property I found them for them. And this was literally when we walked in, this is what we saw. Now you see, it's got a slate floor in it. So what are you thinking? Well, obviously it was some investor who wasn't funded properly, lost the property back to the bank in the middle of the rehab. So I was giddy because of like, hey, the demolition's already done on this deal. They got the floor started already in the kitchen. That's terrific. And so we bought the property, and this is just the family room right off of the kitchen area. And then this is what the kitchen looked like when we finished it. And they were just ecstatic. Now, they were ecstatic for a couple of different reasons, but one of them was that they wanted to be able to do this. They wanted to be able to learn how without them doing anything. And we stress with our folks all the time, look, the only thing you need to be doing is making phone calls and writing checks. You don't ever need to pick a hammer up. And if you ever saw my carpentry skills, you would know why I'm that way. So we're always telling them, hey, look, here's how you do this thing to make it look like this from what it looked like. And so that, and here's the other room, there's those French doors there, so that it becomes a gorgeous property and you get the proper pricing for it. And they were just ecstatic with the way it turned out. Now, the other piece that they were ecstatic about was how their checking account turned out after this deal was done. After they paid all their fees, their real estate commission, their title, their closing, everything, their cost of funds, everything, they walked away with over $41,000 that the two of them split. And so that's a significant check. That's a good check. Think about that again in the course of, can I do that quarterly? And, a lot of people say, well, I'm going to do 50 properties this year. And I'm like, well, good luck on that. How many have you done last year? Well, I hadn't done any yet. Well, you may want to start with one first. So we're great with getting you over one. If you've done a few properties and you want to get to doing 10 or 12 properties a year, then we'll sit down and we'll go through your business and show you what kind of structuring you have to do to get there. Rob and Nancy Fain, who are consulting clients of mine out of Vegas, they run 50 to 60 flips a year and started out. It took them almost 6 months to do their first flip. And I finally broke through with getting them to listen to, step aside from what you think you know, and listen to not just me, but listen to people that have been there before and are doing it at a very different level. And if you do that, then you can expect to have similar results. Well, within 2 years, they were doing 50 to 60 a year. They've done that for several years now. They're making just enormous amounts of money. And it starts with, think about this. If you're doing this and you're picking up 5 of these or 6 of these a year, if you went from doing one every 4 months, so you did 3 your first year, that's $120,000 plus. Then the second year you bumped in and you started doing, maybe you did 4 or 5. If you did 5 the second year, you're at 200 grand. You're at 200 grand that you can do on the side if you understand how to systematize your business. I sit down with investors all the time that they want to look at my business. I'm like, great, come hang out with me. And so we'll be at lunch, and I've had a couple of my consulting clients that Bill, we want to shadow you. I'm like, okay, it's going to be pretty boring, but come on. And so they come into the office with me, and typically I spend an hour to an hour and a half early in the morning working on my real estate investments. And it's kind of done. And then we get to lunch and they're like, so this is not a normal day, obviously. I'm like, I know I was really busy this day. It really isn't kind of a normal day. They're like, wait. You hadn't done squat. I'm like, well, yeah, I don't do squat because you don't have to if you understand how to systematize your business. If you understand the key things that you're supposed to do and you don't get wrapped up in all the minutia that can just drag your day out, can drag your timeline out, can drag your cash flow out. If you understand where to focus, there's that old saying, you've heard it a million times, but I'm one of the few people that actually teach you how to do this about, well, you need to work on your business and not in your business. I heard that so many times I wanted to puke as I was coming up in the business, but nobody ever explained to me what that really means. And I was talking with one of my mentors one day, a guy that you would know. I was talking to one of my mentors one day, and he said, well, here's the thing. And he sat down and walked me through about the difference that makes. And it changed my business like that. And it's changed my business forever. And it's put a stupid amount of money in my life through the years based on understanding what it is to work on my business and not work in my business. If you go and you're literally caught, I caught one of my consulting clients cutting the grass on one of his properties. And I just happened to be in the neighborhood, and I swung by to just kind of see how it was coming along. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. And I was like, dude, you can't be doing that. It cost you too much money. And we had that same conversation. When you understand that, these kind of checks become a regular occurrence when you're applying systems to your business. So, and again, it's always back to how would that impact your family? Because what you and I do, this game is not really attractive to a lot of young people. Some, yes, but not a lot. Most of the time, we're kind of 40s and up when we really start getting serious about getting in the real estate business. And it's because of some core desires that we have. Yeah, we all want to make a lot of money, but it's what the money can do for us is really what pushes us. We want to be able to take care of our kids. You may be like me. I've got a 30-year-old, I've got an 18-year-old, and I've got a 15-year-old. My 18-year-old is a sophomore at Oklahoma. My 15-year-old is a sophomore in high school. So I'm looking at, okay, I've got one in college right now. In 2 more years, I'll have another one in college. And the one that's there will just be getting out. I got to look at that. All 3 of them went to private school their whole lives. And those are the kind of things you look for. I'm not trying to impress you. I'm trying to impress upon you that there are things that make you want to go out and do the business. That's why if you have a regular job, why you get up and go, so you can provide for that family. So you can provide for your kids, your spouse, your grandkids. And so you can provide legacy. That's something that we push a lot, is to think about and write down and structure, what do you want your legacy to be? And when I know what I want my legacy to be, how do I build a plan to get there? Because look, real estate is a vehicle. It is not the be all end all for its own sake. It is the vehicle for you to do the things that God puts you on this planet to do. There's a plan that he has for you that helps the kingdom. And what he wants you to do is what he designed you to do. And if you understand that, your life changes dramatically. And look, everybody's not cut out to be a pastor. That's not the way it works. We got to have plumbers and electricians and real estate investors and everything else to make the world go around. But he wants you to do it in an incredible fashion, and to do it where it's absolutely amazing and that you impact your kids. It's even biblical. The Bible says that you're worse than a non-believer if you don't take care of your children and your grandchildren. So that is what we try to help people do, build legacy, and what that means to your family. Tony Robbins, another mentor of mine, one of my favorite statements of Tony: most people overestimate what they can do in a year and grossly underestimate what they can achieve in 10 years. So I want you to think about a little bit where you were 10 years ago. I do a 2-year thing as well, but think about where you were 10 years ago. So 2011, the real estate market was just stinking. It hadn't turned yet. It was about to, but it hadn't turned yet. It was just a mess. And people were just grumpy. And then suddenly things changed. It's going to change again. It's going to change again. It's going to change again. If you understand this game, like I said, I picked up DFW Properties in 2010, and I had friends that were going, why in the world would you buy a real estate company now when real estate is in the tank and there's no signs of that changing? I'm like, because that's when you buy real estate. That's when you buy real estate companies. That's when you do it. You don't buy it when the market's ripping and roaring, not if you're wanting to make money with it. So Tony says, and Scott and I share a guy that we know, a guy named Russell Brunson, who 5 years ago started a company that's now running about $180 million a year. That's a high percentage of cash flow in it. Out of nothing, I met a guy named Tom Bilyeu. Tom Bilyeu, you may not know his name, but you know his product likely, which is Quest nutrition bars. Tom went from startup, 0 sales, to selling that company for $1 billion in a little over 4 years. And so you look at those things, what is it that I can achieve and not get caught up in, it's got to be this month, it's got to be this year. What is it that I can achieve over a little bit longer time? And as you get a little bit more mature in life, as most of us are on this call, I'm probably the oldest guy on the call, but we're not spring chickens anymore. And with that maturity comes perspective. And when you understand how to apply perspective to your real estate business, one of the things that can do is you can take the fear out of taking action and moving forward. I meet so many investors that they're just afraid to pull the trigger. And they're afraid to pull the trigger because they don't have the base foundation under them to know I've made the right decision. The numbers work. I'm a harp on numbers all the time. The numbers work. This is the right decision. I don't have any fear in moving forward. And so we want to push that so that you have the ability to take action on a consistent basis. And when you take action, other people will come along and take action with you. So you have the time to be able to build your business. And again, I talk about how little time it actually takes to build a successful real estate business. When you're focused on the right things, the decision-making process, that we're not looking at what am I doing to stay busy? What am I accomplishing? What result did I get? I'm real result oriented. I'm real process oriented. I want to know what result did I get today? Not just, man, I had one of my clients was, I got tickled with her. She was just freaking out over what in the world to name her LLC. And I'm like, nobody cares. Other than you, nobody cares what your name of your LLC is. She's like, what? I'm like, this is that thing. You're getting wrapped up in inertia and it's costing your business because your time should be out here making offers and nothing else. So if you know that you can be confident that you're not making the wrong decision and that you're not going to lose any money because you're making the right decisions, so you understand the numbers, you're going to do it and you can do it. You'll continue to move forward. You got to have the guidance from the right coach to keep you moving forward like that. So I want to do a quick introduction to a system that we call Deal a Day. And I mentioned you met Ron and Lorraine, Ronquillo, David and Lorraine Ronquillo on the very front end. They're in the Deal a Day system. You met Bob Richnew and Royce Ann and Cheryl, and you'll meet some more people. So what they're looking at, they got involved in Deal a Day so that some of them didn't have great credit. And the real estate business and the funders in the group tonight know this. Great credit helps. Absolutely, it does. But it's not the be all end all. It doesn't mean that you can't do deals in this business if you don't have great credit. So here's what the Deal a Day system is all about. We start off with 3 days in the truck with me. So I Lincoln Navigator, we hop in the truck and there's 6 of us, me and 6 of you in the truck, and we go out and buy property. We're not going out and looking at property. We're going out and buying property. So because on a brokerage firm, we've already got all the properties pulled and the numbers are working before you ever go see them, because that's what we look at. You're never buying any of our deals. You're not buying my deals. You're just buying property that we find in the MLS. And look, you hear a lot of folks talk about, oh man, you can't find any good deals on the MLS. Well, if you can't find good deals on the MLS, you don't know much about real estate. But first of all, 97% of all property is listed on the MLS. So if I'm going to look for property, I want to go where the biggest amount of property is. And then it's just a filtering system to understand what is it that I need to get to so the properties that I find are more apt to be profitable for me. So we literally go out 3 days in the field. We do a guarantee of that we're going to make offers on property. We're going to get in and see at least 20 properties in those 3 days. 3 days. Am I going to teach you all the things to look for, how to pull those properties, what you need to do to them? Absolutely. But it's field experience. And that's something that experiential learning is the single most successful form of learning that has ever existed. That's why doctors have interns. That's why apprentices come along with when you have attorneys and stuff. They all have some form of apprentice program, because that's where success happens, is being able to have experiential learning. So we start off with that, and that the 3 days in the truck, that is a $25,000 program. And we've done that for years at 25, and we continue to do that. It's a heck of a bargain at that when you think about everything that you learn. Then we couple that with 2 days in a private workshop. Now, that private workshop is not individual. It is only the people that are in the Deal Today program. And that would $14.95 is what that workshop would sell for individually. So we got 3 days in a small group, no more than 6, out in the marketplace. Then we come back, and not necessarily immediately, it may be 2 or 3 weeks, could be 30 days later, we do an additional 2-day training. Now, that 2-day training is classroom. We'll break down a whole bunch of things that we saw, things that you're still looking for. Again, that's a $14.95 program. So we're up to $26,495. Then you got to have some additional training that you can do on your own to deepen your knowledge in the real estate world. And I had built a home study course based on my national best-selling Wall Street Journal and Amazon book, Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich? And in that, the core of that home study course is a live 3-day event recorded. So think about this. You've got 3 days in the field in the truck. Then you've got another 2 days. Now, it's live. If you can't be there live, then you can join us online, but either live or online. Another 2 days, and that's a separate content, ties all together. And then the Dumb Enough home study course is a different training. That's another 3 days. So you've got 8 days of training right off the bat there. Now that totals out to $27,990. Here's what the home study course looks like. It's a 16 CDs. It's a 358-page manual. Then you get all the PowerPoints, all the notes that go with it. You get a copy of the book, of course. And then one of the things that people love there is I have a CD in there that's called Stop Gambling with Your Investment Dollars. And that's where I teach you private money, but I do it in a way that's very different than the way most people teach it. I'm not teaching you a script to say. I'm presenting private money on your behalf. So literally, my clients take that CD, they burn copies of it, and they hand them out to prospective people that are looking at being private money, and they let me do the private money presentation to their prospective lenders. It's been extremely successful with that. So we have that home study course, $14.95, and then that totals out at $27,990. And then on top of that, I have 26 hours of video training that I did called the Real Estate Summit. And literally it's 26 hours of video. Well, 26 hours of video in a seminar environment is a little over 4 days. So this is a massive amount of content of every aspect that you can think of, every aspect that I've learned over the last 30 years, and all the incredible mentors that I've had and all the incredible people that I've had the pleasure of working for, working with, and having the ability to work with as clients as well, learning from all of them. So the 26 hours of video training, that package sells separately at $14.95, bringing our total value up to $29,485 on that. And then this is what the summit videos look like. And then consulting calls. When you go through any kind of training program, and I've worked, I've had a buddy that said, you don't need to say that. There may be people that don't like Donald Trump on your training. And I'm like, I don't really care. I spent 3.5 years consulting for Donald Trump on training speakers for their organization. And so you got to have ongoing process. I also did that for Robert Allen and Russ Whitney, Ron LeGrand, a bunch of other people. So you have to have ongoing consulting in any program that you look at, so that when you get into a position where you're just stuck on something, you can pick up the phone and call somebody. Now, when I do consulting calls, they are with me only. I have a lot of team members. I don't bring them in on the consulting calls. Those are done by me and me personally. So those, if we were to sell those individually, and we don't, we would sell them at $300 a piece. You get 4 of those, that's $1,200. That brings our total value on our package up to $30,685. And I just think that's so crucial to be able to have somebody that you can pick the phone up and call and answer any questions that you've got. Now, there's 2 more pieces to this package here. And one of them is the private money vault and how to open it, $247 value. This is 6 hours of private money training, all the forms that go with it, the scripts that go with it, how to track money, how to make sure that the people that lend you money have all the documentation they need. One, so they're safe, so you're safe, so that when it comes around to tax time for both of you, you've got the things that you need to be able to hand off to your CPA going forward. And then the last thing, this is what that looks like. So you've got DVDs in there, you've got 4 DVDs, you've got some videos in there, and you've got additional training that go along with that. And the very last thing on there is called Properties in Your PJs. And Properties in Your PJs is a system that I developed over the years, proprietary system, just like Private Money Vault, proprietary system where you can go evaluate any market in the country sitting at your desk, in your PJs, on your couch, and be able to do it in a way that you understand that particular market so that you know what you're meeting. The first time I went to Vegas to buy property, I had gotten a referral from a real estate agent there. And so I called the guy and said, hey, I'm going to be out in a couple of days. You want to spend some time together? I want to buy some property. He goes, yeah. Tell me what you're looking for. And I said, well, based on my research, I've got 5 subdivisions that I want to look at. Here's the square footage I'm looking for. Here's the price range I expect to pay. Before you say anything about that price range, the only way to get that price range is for those properties not to be in market condition. I understand that. That's exactly what I'm looking for. And so we get through it, and he was like, wow, how many times you been to Vegas? I said, well, to buy property, this will be my first. He was, well, how'd you do all that? And I said, well, there's a system. And if you're a professional investor, you have those systems. And this is that system. I call it Properties in Your PJs, because it is just, it's a fun way. And you can literally look at any market in this country and not be afraid to go into it, because when you go through the system, you understand that market. So that brings our total package up to $31,029. Now, obviously, I'm not going to ask you to pay $31,000 for that. Scotty and I were talking. I said, I'm going to put together this deal, Scotty. I call this my stupid offer. And he said, what? And I said, yeah, I call it my stupid offer. He said, why do you call it that? I said, well, because I'm probably stupid making it. But on the same token, anybody that doesn't take it might be in the same boat there with me. So I might not be alone there. But if you're the kind of investor that has ever had trouble pulling the trigger on property, this will get you over it. If you're a dabbler and you're really wanting to scale your business and get serious about this thing, this will get you there. And if you haven't had the complete skill set to be able to really ramp your business up, this is one of those pieces that'll get you there. Now, when I built this, I really built it for this couple right here. Investors who have spent anywhere from 20 to 50 grand, and a lot of them haven't done a single deal yet. And almost all of them haven't built a business yet. Almost every one of the clients in my consulting practice, which is pretty decent, they've all done this somewhere else. They've all gone to some other program, put out $20, $30, $40, $50,000, and it didn't get them, I call it over the hump. It didn't get it there. And so that's what we focus on, is how to get you over the hump and push it. We do some things that are very different, including we do some guarantees that are very unique to the real estate industry. So you might be thinking that you can't get started because it just costs too much. It's just too expensive. And I don't know where the real estate market's going. Well, we're going to tell you where the market's going. And here's a special offer that Scotty and I put together for tonight. The $31,029 tonight. There's two pieces to this. There's a cash piece and then there's a paper piece. And I'm going to tell you what the paper piece is. So the cash piece of it is $5,850. So it's a $31,000 package and it's 8 days of training with me, some of it live, some of it by video, some of it by audio, and additional training materials that go with that, $5,850. And then here's the paper piece of that. I'm going to ask you to sign a video release where we can film you as we're out doing this. We're going to ask for some testimonials. That's the only way I can afford to do this at $5,850. And look, if you're a partnership, you're a husband and wife, if you're business partners, this is for one person only. At this kind of pricing, I can't do couples in there or can't do business partners. This is for one person only at that price, but you have to do the talent release is what it is. If you hadn't been a film star, well, you're about to be. So you got to do a talent release to go along with that. $5,050. How you get started with that, you go to billsdealaday.com. No hyphens, no punctuation of any kind. billsdealaday.com. That's the single pay environment. Now, Scotty came up with something that's absolutely fabulous. And I said, dude, we got to do that. And he said, I want you to split the payment so that if somebody can't pay the full thing to get moving forward, they've got a split pay option. And that's the split pay option. 2 payments at $31.25. There's one would be obviously tonight, squaring you away. And then the other one would be in 30 days. There is only going to be 12 of these total. And so all the replays going out. And if you've been around Scott for a while, you understand that the massive audience that he has reach, the replay is exponentially larger than what happens in the live environment. That's why he always can have guys like me and Arnie and everybody else come in that you look at and go, well, it's a small crowd. No, it's not. It's a huge crowd because it's the replay. And that's why all of us come there. So 2 payments at $31.25. Again, we're only going to do 12 people. What that is that's 2 turns in the truck, because I'd like to do one here in Texas and I'd like to do one in Florida. You let me know where you want to go. We'll go there and we'll get dates coordinated. And that's the most fun of it, is putting the dates together and then seeing people's business change. And what we do with this, when we're doing Texas, now I can't do this in Florida just yet, but my network in Texas is strong enough that we can guarantee you when you come into the program that you're going to get a deal in your deal a day program. Just like the people that you've met, just like they've done, you're going to do that. And we do a guarantee with that. And the guarantee is this: if you don't, when we're doing that 3-day, then I continue to work with you until you do. So it becomes a huge profit center for you. So look at single pay option again is billsdealaday.com. The split pay option is Bill's Deal a Day Split. And so you got a single pay and a double pay there. Scotty, we got any questions tonight?
Not currently. Got a few requests for the book earlier on. We'll get those.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll get that to you, Scott, and everybody that's on here. We'll be more than happy to get them a copy of the book. So here's what you have to look at is what's been holding you back and what's going to change for you. So you look at what have I got to do differently in my real estate business to have the remainder of 2021 and to have 2022, 2023 be different than what we've gone through so far. And throughout history, this is the time when the most money has been made. When the government, the social world that we live in, when there's been massive amounts of turmoil, that's when the most money has been made. I'm sure you've heard other speakers say this. I use it all the time. I'm not the only one. But there were more millionaires created in the Great Depression from a percentage of people than any other time in our history. And you already know most millionaires come from the real estate world, and you got to get ready for, we're not through the turmoil yet. I'm sure you're paying attention to all the political stuff that's going on and will continue to go on for a while. And that creates turmoil. We're getting inflation. We haven't begun to see the amount of inflation that we're going to get. And real estate is one of those incredible hedges against inflation. So it's one of the things I tell people about all the time, because housing is not an option. Everybody has got to live somewhere. It's a necessity. I get in these debates with stockbrokers all the time. And look, that's where my professional training started, in the investment banking world. And I say, I used to be there. Real estate is significantly more important because it's bigger than the stock market and because it is a necessity. Everybody has got to live somewhere. So Scott, just holler at me if we end up with any questions. But I just want you to think about, what would it be like if you and I were to do a couple of deals together over the next few months and you were getting those checks like we saw, but more importantly than getting just one or two checks, you had the system in place to be able to repeat that again and again and again and again through the years, and what that could mean for you and your family. I'm going to go through the components of that one more time, Scott, unless you have some questions, and you just holler at me if you do. 3 days in the truck, it's 25 grand. And that is literally, those are long days. We hump it. This is not, we sit and drive by and look at stuff. We're in and out of the truck all day, in and out of properties all day. And you're understanding on the grassroots level, boots on the ground, what the real estate business is all about, whether you want to be a wholesaler, a flipper, whether you're looking at, look, if you're looking at multifamily, you still got to know what to do to those individual apartments to make them get that high rate of rent, because we do a lot of rental property as well. So we go through all of that in those 3 days. It's a constant. Now, when we're in the truck, it's training. Then we get out in the field and we're back in the truck, and it's more training and more training. So that's 25,000 for the 3 days. Then there's the additional 2 days. I call that the pull it all together event, because what it does is it takes where you are and we look at where you're trying to get to. You've done the 3 days now out in the field, and then we take these next 2 days. And most people try to do this when live with us. Certainly, if you can't make it in, we carry it online. It's simulcast online, so you can do it that way as well. But it's the pull it all together. It's the tie it up in a nice bow. And then it's all about being able to learn how to do it the right way, learning firsthand. Somebody's been doing it for, I wasn't around when God made dirt, but it wasn't too long after that he asked me what I thought of it. So then after you get those additional 2 days in there, you've got all of the digital material that goes along with that. So you understand what the systems are, why they are built the way that they are, and why we execute them in the order that we do them in, so that you can stay focused on results and not inertia, and you don't get caught up in all of that. And again, this is all about, as Tony Robbins likes to say, turning decades into days. How you're able to take what 30 years means to me and be able to turn it into several days of training for you, condensed so that it's drinking out of a fire hydrant. And it is intense stuff. We have a ton of fun. Don't make sure that we understand that. It's a ton of fun, but you're going to learn a lot. Make sure you got comfortable shoes, because we're going to be moving a lot, and we get out in the field. And that's the thing. You get the 2 day additional, that's at $14.95. You get the 3 day home study course. That's an additional $14.95 with that. We've sold couple of thousand of those individually at $14.95. And we just get incredible results out of it. We also have some online updates with it. So when things change, instead of me going out and recording new DVDs, we simply go in and reference it back online, which is a private site for people that own the home study course. And we go in and update it there. And then the private money vault, this is just something that I just absolutely love this product, because it changes so many businesses. And if you understand how to structure financially a deal, when I went into Merrill Lynch into investment banking, I started I was my early 20s. I was in television. I had a TV show that I created and was nationally syndicated, ran 5 days a week, mostly on NBC affiliates, 5 days a week, ran for 3.5 years, and then it died. And when television dies, there's not too many MASH and Friends and Seinfelds that, you have a big celebration and it's gone. When 99% of television dies, it's on one day, it's gone the next day. My show died quickly. Once it started dying, it went from being in over half the nation to off the air in less than 6 months, just gone. And so I was like, wow, I need to learn how to structure money. Where do you go to learn how to do that? You go where the money is. Well, at that time, I thought the money was all at places like Merrill Lynch, and I learned some great financial structuring there that has been incredibly helpful in the real estate business. And I apply that in the private money vault and how to open it so that you always have the most amount of money that you need to do any kind of deal. And we also now put together a package for you so that when you're going with more traditional lenders, you know how to put that package together before you ever walk in. You've got everything that they're going to be asking for already done. And believe me, it makes a big difference with banks and mortgage companies and commercial lenders. You don't look like a rookie. You know what you're doing. You've got your packages structured and put together correctly. And prospective lenders absolutely love that. You get your consulting calls. You get 4 of those. And those are typically 30 minutes on the short end, hour max, so that you have the ability to be able to go out and do, not get stuck anywhere, do more and more deals. Properties in your PJs, again, evaluating markets nationwide from your laptop, desktop. Again, the whole package is $58.50. And then you can go to billsdealaday.com or billsdealadaysplit.com. Scott, sir, what can I do for you, brother?
2 questions. One, when are the dates for the Dallas training? And another question is what market in Florida do you know?
Okay, so what we do in the Texas market is we find out who all is involved and where they are. Now, we do the Dallas-Fort Worth market because of the team that I have here. So people come in, we're going to come back and canvas everybody that gets involved. And we've got some other people that are already signed up for these. And we come back and say, okay, so here's the dates that work for you. And we put that together so that everybody is happy with a date. And it usually takes us a couple of days to have, and it's one of the things one of the team members does, puts that scheduling together. So it's a little bit flexible on the dating. I like to do that within 30 days of coming into the program. That's kind of my outside window. I really like you to get moving quickly so we can get that momentum building for you. Then on the Florida market, we do Miami and we do Orlando. So it really just depends on what markets that you like there. I have a business partner in Miami. And then I also have one of my primary team members lives in Orlando that's been with me for 15 years, I guess, and does a lot of investing there. So we do those 2 markets, Miami and Orlando.
Great markets. Yeah, those are phenomenal for what you're doing. And
fun stuff. Fun stuff.
Yeah, definitely out there. Have you had a record set as far as how many properties somebody's bought in your training at one time?
Yes. I have had a record set. The record for deal a day is 5. And if you're new, that may not sound like a big deal. If you've been around the business for a while, getting 5 deals accepted in 3 days is pretty impressive. That's 5 deals with one person. That's my record.
That's good.
It's 5. Yeah. It was really funny. I've done that a couple of different times, and there's been a couple of times I have gone and done this in Vegas. And I went to Vegas and had a client out there, and he lived in Vegas. And so I took a group out, and he joined our group when we were there, and we started putting deals together. And he had some, as I had mentioned, most people that I've had come into my consulting program have been somewhere else first. And it's created they knew this is the right thing, real estate. They just weren't in the right spot. And so they were looking at, okay, Bill can fix that for me, I believe. And so they came to the consulting program, and He was one of those. And some of the other stuff he had learned started seeping into the offers that we were making. So he called me one day after I had gotten back here, and because we do a continuation with that so that we keep following up and moving forward, even after the 3 days is ended. So we're moving forward, and he goes, man, I got to tell you something. I made 150 offers and didn't get one of them accepted. I'm not thinking this works. And I said, well, first of all, why in the world would you ever make 150 offers and not call me first? Don't ever do that again. You can't make 150 offers and put any thought into it. Yeah, I hear guys on stage say that kind of stuff all the time, and just it makes me want to puke because it's bad information. You just can't do it. And I said, what's going to happen is you'll burn your bridges with real estate agents because they know you're just lowball spitballing numbers. You haven't put any thought or work into it, but yet you want them to go out and put their work into it. I said, so here's the deal. Why don't you pick out like 10 of them, pick 10 of them out and fax them over to me, scan them over to me. Let me look at them. And so I can at least check your numbers, because even not using the system correctly, gee, 150, you ought to have something there, dude. Now there's some mistake that's going on. So he picks out 10 just randomly and sends them to me. I go looking through them, and the first couple I look at, I'm like, well, it's a little confusing because the numbers look pretty decent. I'm surprised that he's not getting any bites here. And then I get to the very last page, and he had literally 16 contingencies on an attachment. And I call him and I'm like, dude, what in the world? He said, well, that's what you said, dude. I'm like, no, you go back and you read everything I gave you. You go through all your notes. I never, ever, 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 ever said that. And these contingencies are telling every possible seller that you're more interested in getting out of a deal than you are getting in a deal. If you want to buy some property, resubmit these offers, simply tear off the attachment page with all the contingencies and see what happens. And about 3 days later, he called me back in a complete panic because he had not bought investment property yet. And he was another guy that had gotten 5 accepted at one time. And he was like, what do we do? What do we do? And I was like, well, now we put the funding together for it. And so that's been 4 or 5 years ago now, still in the business, still in Vegas, doing well. A lot of fun stuff.
Good stuff. Joanna Zhang asked a question. Does your deal guarantee apply to Florida as well?
I'm sorry, does it, the guarantee on making sure you get property done?
Yes.
Yes. If it's in those two markets, yes. If it's in Miami or Orlando, yes.
Yeah. Good stuff there. Joanna, I think it's Orlando. Awesome.
Yeah. I get down to Orlando pretty regularly. In fact, I'm going to be down there starting on the 21st. I'm going to be down for a few days, packed up, got some crazy, going to be doing a lot of stuff down there. Love it, love it, love it. And like I said, one of my business partners is down in Miami, and we're buying a 8-unit resort in Miami right now, right outside of Miami.
Yeah, there's the 2 hot markets, definitely. And
yeah, fun stuff.
Florida is my second home to Texas.
Yeah.
Bill. So
yep.
Good stuff there. Well, cool. Another question online. How good is I always hate when people ask me this question. How long is this pricing good for?
We hit 12 people, it's done.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
That's how long it's good for. We've got
a couple of people have signed up already. So
we've got 3 that have signed up in the last week. Just me doing some stuff online, not webinars, just doing some email stuff. So it'll fill up fairly quickly, but I really, once we hit this, you won't ever see this pricing again.
Yeah.
That's not a ploy. I've been around a long time. I don't play the game like that. It'll be gone and it won't be coming back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I appreciate you taking the time tonight to come on and offer.
Yeah, man. My blast.
Bill.
What a hoot.
Exactly. Great stuff there. And I tell you what, when you finalize this class, let me know. I might make it appear.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And look, anybody that's sitting on the fence, do not worry about the scheduling. We'll make it work where it works for you. We may have to both stretch a little bit to make it happen, but through the years, I've done a ton of 3-day consultings through the years. I've been doing those for about 15 years now. And it's been, I bet I hadn't had 5 people that over the course of a couple of months anyway, we weren't able to find a time that was appropriate for them and appropriate for me. So, and if that happens, then we write you a refund check and off we go.
Exactly. So guys and gals, take them up on the opportunity here, guys. Get rock and rolling. Bill's got amazing stuff, amazing training. As you've heard, somebody who's trained and worked with a lot of the top of the top, and been consultants for the top of the top out there as well. So you're in good hands. You're in good hands with Bill, everybody.
There you go. There you go.
Good stuff. Well, there's no other questions online or in person. We're right after 8 o'clock. We will wrap it up then for the evening. All right, Bill?
Super. Yeah, that works for me. Thanks so much, Scott. I look forward to it. Hey, you guys jump on the replay and hear it there as well. And I may have a little surprise for you, Scotty. I'll call you later on. It may be tomorrow. I'm actually going to go pick my 15-year-old up here in just a minute. He's on a date. So they're doing a movie tonight. So I got to go pick him up here shortly, but I'll call you in the morning with a little surprise that may be fun for everybody.
Sounds good, Bill. Well, hey, man, thanks again for coming on here tonight. Guys, once again, those 2 links are billsdealaday.com for the full paid in full. And then the other one is if you need to split over 2 payments over 30 days, that's billsdealaday.split.com for you. Same program, just gives you a little bit of flexibility if you need that extra 30 days. So go out, take some action, everybody, and we'll see you all at the top, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Good night now.